And we are live. So, welcome to episode 135, because just an hour ago I was doing 134 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got the Ryan Daly. From the, I've been talking to him. We've been talking to him. You should have the Daily Show. But like not,
I get sued.
No, you wouldn't. No, wouldn't, because it would one. No one. I mean, well, you never know. You might get a billion subs doing all those campy movies, but D-A-L-Y. That's the way it's spelled, as opposed to Jon Stewart.
I can say I'm related to Timothy Daly. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's one way to.
I might be related somehow. Tim and Tyne Daly.
All right, I'm sorry I brought it up. All right,
if they came from the Philly area, I'm probably related, but you know,
no good deed goes unpunished. What the fuck? All right, so then of course, bearing up under all this is Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here, who never seems to have to endure another of these conversations. That,
I know when to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all you can do. So here we go. The summer of crime is starting to wind down, and if I don't remember, please stay in the. We're just getting started, but please remember to stay in the stream after we finish here, because I want to talk to you guys about next week. We have two more movies left in the summer of crime. One of them is the Boondock Saints, which is a movie that it's mandatory. If you're talking about crime thrillers, and probably as close to a comedy as this show will ever touch on. The last movie, though, that we're going to cover is Joker. And I recently had some scheduling issues, so I wasn't sure what was going to be happening with many things, in terms of availability. But then my schedule levels out. And so the old days come back, and, we're available to stream as we have been for, going on almost 2 years now. Here we go. January will be 2 years, and we're almost in September, so it's really not that far away.
Wow.
Yeah. Time flies, man. We come a long way from Zoom uploads, and a show every Saturday where I said, "Welcome to the show." We're going to discuss, When's the last time you see me smile? Yeah, it doesn't happen very often. No, it doesn't.
At least with me and Ryan, it's been a while.
Yeah. Ryan didn't exactly cracking a grin out of me either these days. That motherfucker. All right, we got to get right back to it soon now. Don't mention. I'm the one who's got it. I'm the one who's got it. I've done 135 of these. You wouldn't be smiling either. No,
it doesn't hurt to smile every once in a while.
It's hurting me right now.
Smile, and the world smiles with you.
Shut up. All right. That brings us to today's movie, Sin City. And I had Sin City right now, and for those of us who are fans of physical media, Sin City is available on HBO Max. It's streaming right now on HBO Max. I picked up this used copy, unrated, from Books A Million, when Books A Million used to sell DVDs. I think I picked it up for $10. It's got some special features, and it also has the Sin City graphic novel, which is the story of
Marv,
the Hard Goodbye. So it was.
That's only one of them. There's a bunch.
Oh yeah, there's a whole. This is number 4, I think.
Yeah,
there's number 1.
That's number 1. Okay,
number 1. Yeah, there's 7 of them. I got them all.
Oh, okay.
No, so it is number 1. All right. So I had not seen this movie in about 10 years. Just hadn't gotten around to it. It's not one of those things where I for some reason, I watched it and I'm like, yeah, it was a good movie. And then, I was never in a mood where I said, hey, I'm going to watch Sin City today. Yeah. And then within the past year or two, I ended up picking up this, and it sat on the shelf, and I didn't put it in. Just, the thing about doing the show is that there's already a list of movies that I have to get the jump on. So often watching something else doesn't really happen in addition to work and, whatever else is going on. So, a movie like this would just sit on the shelf. And then I put it in for the Summer of Crime, or somebody requested it. Maybe I don't remember exactly how it worked out. And so around 4:30, 5 o'clock this evening, I put it in. And I hadn't seen it in about 10 years. And I remember within the first 10 minutes, I said, what the fuck am I watching here?
Uh-oh.
And so with that in mind, shall we get it going?
Yeah.
Might as well.
Boogity, boogity. So we got John K. Alvarez here in the house tonight, and he says 2
Johnny
years
Kives.
of fears. Yeah, Johnny Kives from the neighborhood. Forget about it. And so 2 years of fears coming up in January. And then we've got Slasher Fred. He says one of my favorite comic book crime movies is the 1990 film Dick Tracy, which
That's a fun one.
That's a solid film.
Mhm.
That was, Dick Tracy. I was obsessed with that when it came out, and I had gotten into the comics around the time of the movie. It's still visually, it's still a perfect movie, and the makeup is, I think, what makes it to this day. If you watch, I watched it in the last 4 or 5 years, and the makeup still holds up. I mean, and they got a great cast, but that's a decent one. Falls under the radar, but it's
they don't make detective stories anymore.
No, they don't.
They don't. The closest we've gotten, and that I can think of in recent memory, has been that HBO series True Detective.
Okay.
Which was, we were just talking about that a little bit when it came to Personal Shopper. That first season with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson was just fantastic.
That's the only season I've seen, but it was damn good.
Oh man, yeah. And then the second season had Colin Farrell and Vince Vaughn. And then the third season had Stephen Dorff and Mahershala Ali.
Oh, okay.
And it's just the second season fell off a little bit. It was a little weird. You're like, what? This is because the expectation had been built from how good the first season was, which is still, in my opinion, the best season. But then the third season was also just fantastic because you've got Stephen Dorff and Mahershala Ali, and a solid script.
Hey, isn't that ironic? You have Blade and the bad guy from Blade.
Yeah,
together.
Deacon Frost. Yeah.
I never thought of that.
The new Blade.
And they were very good together. I think Stephen Dorff's a terribly underrated actor. And it's easy to just sort of overlook him. He's really good, and I think in another world he'd probably be a leading man.
Even in bad movies, he's good.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things.
You know what? I only know him from Blade. I don't know what else he's been in. I mean, I don't really follow Stephen Dorff too much.
It's kind of one of those things where you just catch him here and there, but it's always fucking good. It reminds me of Fred Ward. When Fred Ward died, somebody said that in another world he was a leading man. But in this one, we just got decades of fantastic character acting. And I think the same thing sort of applies to Stephen Dorff.
Okay.
But bringing us back to Sin City, you've got a fuckload of an ensemble cast.
Oh yeah, one of the best, I think.
And when you really stop to think about it, it got the jump on a lot of comic book movies. Because you had the X-Men's and you had Raimi's, Spider-Man's, but we hadn't taken off with the MCU yet.
Right.
So looking at it now, after
by 3 years.
Yeah, looking at it now.
Yeah.
Through the lens of 15 years of MCU and DC and things like that, I looked at it in a different way. Okay. But you've still got fuck all of an ensemble. You've got Jessica Alba,
Mm-hmm.
You got Powers Booth.
Yes.
You got Benicio del Toro. He was one of my Jessica Alba. And I've got a segment in the notes called "Versus Salma Hayek" from Dusk Till Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Powers Booth.
Yep.
Benicio del Toro. Benicio del Toro was one of my favorite performers in this.
Oh yeah,
Jackie
Boy. He's
Jackie Boy.
With that raspy voice.
You got Rutger Hauer.
Mm-hmm.
You got Clive Owen.
Yep.
You got Mickey Rourke.
Yep.
You got Nick Stahl. Nick Stahl is another actor who I think is woefully underappreciated, although he's had a number of his own issues that have kind of
he's on the
sort of
self-sabotage.
Yeah, he's kind of self-sabotage. He was kind of on a self-sabotaging turn, with substances. And that kind of thing. But what he did in Carnival. And most recently we covered a movie on the show with him called Hunter x Hunter.
I still got to see that.
Oh man, it's so good with Devon Sawa, who
has had another career resurgence too.
Yeah,
wow. But Devon Sawa, wow.
He literally plays. He's Hunter x Hunter, and Nick Stahl sort of shows up, and he just might be a werewolf. And so it's worth catching. Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis is always Bruce Willis.
Yep.
And I wrote in the notes, Bruce Willis takes another ass kicking. Because that's what separates him from a lot of the action stars of the time. He's not the invincible action star.
Right.
He looks like a guy who could be a bartender. He could just as easily be a cop, but he's not jacked. He's not a martial artist or anything like that.
He's your dad. That's what he is.
Yeah, or your crazy uncle. Not quite
that's
as
more
crazy.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like your crazy fun uncle. You got Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. We got Michael Clark Duncan.
Yes, the late great Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah. He had quite a presence in this movie. You had Carla Gugino.
Yes, you did.
Very nice. Yes, you did. Josh Harnett. I'd forgotten he was in this.
Yeah,
very little people. Yeah,
he bookends the movie.
I'm a fan of Josh Harnett from the days of Black Hawk Down.
30 Days a Night.
Yeah, well, Black Hawk Down is one of my top war movies, maybe my top 3. 30 Days of Night, probably in my top 5 vampire films. That's Evan. He's good in that. You had Michael Madsen.
Yep.
Brittany Murphy. It was so great to see Brittany Murphy.
Yeah.
She was really good in this too.
I forgot she was in that too.
And she's just so damn cute.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's just gorgeous and cute. It's like gorgeous and cute. It's this weird combination that she managed to pull off.
I forget, was that her last movie?
It was close to it. She was going to be in the sequel, but she had passed since it happened, so they decided out of respect they weren't going to recast her.
Yeah, okay.
And there was also rumors that she was murdered. And there was a possibility that she was murdered.
It was a weird thing that happened to her. It was.
I think they finally chalked it up as she just had a bad case of pneumonia because her health had been spiking up and low lately at the time, when she had her own substance abuse problems and her heart was weak. And
I think they said she was like anemic and stuff.
Yeah,
and
very sad.
And same thing happened to her husband too, which was weird.
Yeah,
but
very sad.
Yeah,
and we've got Slasher Fred. If you guys ever seen that movie called The Gate, Stephen Dorff is in the movie. Yes, he's in that too. And then we've got, and I had forgotten he was in this too, Elijah Wood.
Yeah,
it's Kevin.
Yeah,
and Elijah Wood is one of the treats in this movie for me because he plays against type.
Yep.
He's just coming off 3 years of playing Frodo Baggins, and all of a sudden he's playing like a ninja cannibal.
Yeah, he doesn't say a word.
No, he never says. And he's creepy, and it's very strange with Elijah Wood because I think he never really moved past Lord of the Rings.
No,
Viggo made it, Ian McKellen made it, Christopher Lee was already established, Liv Tyler sort of retired to have a family.
Orlando Bloom's still kicking.
Yeah, Orlando Bloom. He's got that Circus Alley Prime show, that sci-fi fantasy show.
Elijah does a lot of independent horror now because he loves horror movies. He always has. He remade Maniac, which was a 1980s movie.
Yeah,
he was the Maniac, and it was all point of view stuff and stuff. He's done a lot of independent horror, and I think he has his own independent horror production company.
Oh,
yeah.
Does he have a social media presence?
I don't know. I'll look real quick, but that's where he's at. He's doing a lot of indie horror movies.
That for and what I've come to discover over the past few months is that's where the best horror is coming from. The best horror nowadays is coming from the indie houses. It's coming from overseas. It's coming from South America. I've seen some fantastic Latin America, thanks to Julia Morgan, who's been pointing this out to me. Some of the great horror coming out of Asia that's just breathtaking to watch, and some of the great stuff that's coming out of Europe. So the smaller places, it's just not happening in Hollywood very much. Hold on a second. Don't forget. Elijah Wood being. Yeah, no, we got him, John. We got him.
He does have a Twitter account that he's active on. He's posted as quick as 2 days ago. He posted a picture of the Never-Ending Story for Wolfgang Peterson. So
and rest in peace, Wolfgang.
So
Peterson.
he does have Elijah Wood official Twitter. So he is on social media.
He also did 3 seasons of BBC television series. Okay, I'll have to check him out on IMDb. Because here for me personally, I remember, and I know Ryan's not necessarily a fan, but when I first saw the first Hobbit movie, and there's like a 5-minute segment where you see him again.
Yeah, the beginning.
And it was so great to see him. I'm like, oh man, it's Frodo.
Him and Ian Holm, yeah.
Yeah, that was just so great because he just comes walking around the corner unannounced, in Bilbo's home, and I'm like, oh man, it was such a good feeling to see him.
Yeah.
But here, it's not a good feeling to see him. Because he's a fucking cannibal serial killer, some bullshit like this. Now, this is neo-noir.
Yeah.
And probably falls under hard-boiled, too, probably.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing, and this is my complaint generally as an overview, and then we'll touch on it, and then we don't have to touch on it, but for me, it permeated the whole film, and not seeing it again in 10 years, I really didn't pick up on it. The script comes through like they literally lifted it from a graphic novel.
Yes.
They didn't change. Yeah, they didn't change. Like if you make a graphic novel into it, like we watched 30 Days of Night, and I own all of those. I own all those graphic novels. But they contextualize them. They contextualize them for the screen. Here, it just lifts right off, and you're just like, this dialogue is awful.
That's what that's the point. That's what Robert Rodriguez and Miller, because a lot of these shots are exactly from the panels of the movie or of the graphic novels. Like when Hardigan's leaving the prison, and you got the camera shooting down and just the bars behind him. That's exactly from it. And not much dialogue has changed. The only difference that I noticed, because I've read at least these 3 stories, hundreds of times. The only difference is what happens to Alexis Bledel. She survives until the end of the movie. She's killed during the firefight in the graphic novel. That's the only difference that I noticed.
I remember. See, I remember when this movie came out. I had heard of I had seen the graphic novels in the store and stuff, and I had never read them. I'm not a huge fan of Frank Miller's artwork. But it's just, but I remember seeing The Yellow Bastard, and I'm like, what is this thing? And I'm like, Sin City, I'm like, this looks kind of cool. And then when the movie came out, I'm like, okay, it's that.
Yeah.
And Robert Rodriguez, the way it's filmed, first of all, the way it's filmed is awesome. I'm glad he stuck to the black and white with even some of the comic panels themselves. He kind of juxtaposed in there, and I love even the beginning when the cast is being introduced. It shows their comic counterparts.
Right. That's next. Exactly lifted right from the graphic novels.
Yeah, that was a really cool way to do it.
Visually, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and I just remember, I wasn't aware that it was like an anthology type thing the way it was set up. So I was kind of like, wait. First we got Hardigan, then all of a sudden we're taking a left turn here to Marv. I'm like, what's going on? But then they all connected. But I have to say though, I'm getting it out on the table right now. I am Team Marv all the way. Marv is my man. And I should, you know what? And it's funny. I was going to put him on our list of anti-heroes.
Mm-hmm.
He almost made the top 5 for me because Marv is. I think Mickey Rourke steals the movie.
I think this was Mickey Rourke's first hit before The Wrestler. So this is what got him known, air quotes, known again to the public.
Yeah.
Keep going. Talk as much as you want.
I mean, it was interesting who they cast in certain parts, like, Michael Madsen. I wanted to see more of Michael Madsen. He wasn't in it that much.
Well, the movie was pretty much all cast, and he walked up to Robert Rodriguez and he says, "When are you going to put me in a movie?" And he literally had one spot left. He's like, "You want to be Detective so and so? Yeah, you want to be Bob?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll be Bob."
Oh, okay.
That's literally how it happened.
It's a testament, and I encountered something like this recently, although not nearly on that level, of what can happen just by asking.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes just by asking, you'd be surprised, how many doors, will actually open up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Madsen's, he's in almost, if not all, of Tarantino's films.
Oh, yeah.
And, Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez are like this. They even, like, Tarantino directed a scene of this movie. It's the scene where Clive Owen is talking to
Jackie Boy's head.
Jackie Boy in the car. Tarantino directed that because
the dead Jackie Boy,
for $1, because they agreed. Robert Rodriguez, he scored, I think, Kill Bill Volume 2 for $1. So that was like their little payoff type of thing.
That's,
well, I think didn't Tarantino?
Let me just say real quick.
He wanted to work with the type of cameras that Rodriguez was using. I think he wanted to film in whatever.
He wanted to try it out.
Wanted to try it out. Yeah.
That for me was the best scene in the movie.
Oh yeah,
with Jackie Boy's head, and that's why I liked Benicio del Toro.
He's great. Yeah.
I mean, for me, like I said, the dialogue was lifted right out of that, and I was just like, okay. And then the overacting.
Well,
it's over. It's like, and you're like, wow, this is fucking overacting as fuck. And maybe I'm just looking at it from, having seen 15 years of graphic novels and comic book movies now. Looking at these, it's almost sort of a prototype. I think if you were to do Sin City today, aside from the woke bullshit that we're always talking, you couldn't make a movie like this. I don't think you.
No, it's from another era if you think about it, because Mickey Rourke, he's calling women broads. You know what I mean? It's that era of like the 40s, the 30s, the 40s, that type of stuff, and it's just put in
it's very
a more, at the time, a more modern era. I mean, you still had the old cars, but it wasn't like nothing but 30s and 40s, but you still had like the strip club felt like a strip club, but they're still talking like Bogart would call someone a broad. You know what I mean? And that was what Mickey Rourke was doing. So,
and I mean, it's very melodramatic because it's supposed to be, and it's supposed to be over the top. And I mean, the dialogue and the everything is all, I think it's spot on. I think it works fine, and it doesn't really take me out of the movie because you're aware that you're watching a comic book. You're watching a live graphic novel. It doesn't make any illusions about what it is.
Right.
It's not like, and even to compare it or contrast it with the Marvel films and the DCU and stuff, you really can't, because it's kind of its own thing. It knows exactly what it is, and you can enjoy it in that respect.
Well, we start off with the Hartigan storyline.
Yeah.
We start off with Bruce Willis. And Bruce Willis is on his way to bring some justice to Rourke.
Yeah.
Who is the son
Senator
of a
Rourke.
powerful senator.
Junior.
And you get the impression that Sin City is just systemically corrupt. Place.
It's like Gotham.
The cops are the cops are on the force, on the take. Rourke isn't necessarily, but he's run down. He's almost 60. He's got a bad heart. And he's going to take this kid down who has kidnapped an 11-year-old girl. and he's going in by himself.
You mean Hardigan? You said
Hardigan.
Rourke.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Hardigan is going in to take down this character when his partner, Michael Madsen, appears sort of out of nowhere and is copping a plea for him to wait for backup. But of course, backup means that the little girl is going to die, in which case he's not going to wait. And as he goes in, and it's Nick Stahl.
Yeah, he knocks out Bob, and I just love these type of lines. He knocks out Michael Madsen. He says, "Hell of a way to end a partnership." You know what I mean? I mean that's pure graphic novel noir, comic book, and that's what I love.
So he knocks out his partner, goes in, and then proceeds to shoot the living hell out of Nick Stahl. Shoots his arm off, or he shoots him in the balls, and he shoots him in the leg, a foot, or something. He maims him with the gunshots.
Yeah, he blows off one of his ear, and then he says, "I take away his weapon," both of them. So he blew off his hand that had the gun, and he shot him right in the crotch, because Junior's also a serial rapist, not just a murderer.
And then he's saved essentially by Bob, who proceeds to shoot Bruce Willis in the back. Is this not correct? Okay. You know what this is for me? This is very strange, and I don't want to get neurotic here. But remember we did this? Remember we did Walk the Cinema, and I did Personal Shopper. It was ironic because I was just talking to them about this. And then we came in and did The Evil Dead. And I couldn't remember anything about The Evil Dead because it all kind of had blurred to me. It's having a similar kind of thing here, and I'm like, well, wait, what happened?
That's weird because for me, this movie, I didn't watch it beforehand because I've seen it enough, and it's made like an imprint, so I can like recall the scenes as we talk about them, and the characters and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, he's really,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just kind of, it didn't grab me. Like, I was surprised because, like I said, when I first saw it, I think this might have been the second time I've seen it, which means this is the first time I've seen it since 2005, 2006. So what I saw wasn't what I was expecting to see. And, my tastes have changed. So I was just like,
it happens.
Okay, So Hardigan ends up in the hospital.
Yes.
And is framed for all the murders.
He's visited by the senator.
Yeah, he's visited by Powers Booth, who is the father to Junior, Nick Stahl.
And he's great. Powers Booth is only in that one scene. Yeah. But he's perfect. He's
always good.
He's there at the end too, doesn't he?
Well, he's there at the very
end.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
He's there at the very end when Hardigan finally takes out Junior.
Yeah.
And it's just him yelling and screaming and like throwing his desk over and stuff like that.
Yeah. But that monologue, that scene of him where it's Hardigan's point of view, and you just see Powers Booth, Senator Rourke. It's perfect. It's a great scene, great monologue, and it's like his eyes are colored. His eyes are blue. The rest is black and white. Yeah, like I said, visually, this movie's
visually it's fascinating. It's a great success, and that scene reminded me of the Pulp Fiction scene between Ving Rhames and Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Where Ving Rhames is kind of punking him, as he goes. I'm giving you this money. It kind of reminded me a little
bit too of the Christopher Walken Dennis Hopper scene in True Romance.
Yeah,
kind of like that too. Christopher Walken is the mob guy, and where he's going to shoot Dennis Hopper, and he's talking about the whole the stuff. But like it's kind of reminiscent of that too.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Well, Bruce Willis is, as always, playing the long-suffering hero. Who's visited by this girl who says, I've been trying to tell these people the truth, but they just keep acting like I'm crazy. And he explains to her, sometimes the world is like that, but, as long as you know what's true, that'll be okay for me. And so she kind of, she exits the story. And that's, I feel like I'm glossing it over. I don't mean to. That was a good 20, 25
you know
minutes.
Enough people have seen this movie, I think, we can jump around.
Well, there really isn't, honestly, in this first opening sequence, there really isn't much more to it. Bruce Willis goes to save a would-be victim, an 11-year-old would-be victim, who is going to get raped and murdered by the son of a senator. And the senator has complete control over Sin City because his brother is also this big-time cardinal or whatever with the church. So the Rourkes control Sin City. That's what it was pretty much doing. It was just setting that up.
Yeah.
And then then you had the more of that yellow bastard story in Act 3 or in the final
because then we go after this part. Then we go into Marv.
Yes,
and Marv wakes up from this great night that he's had apparently with this woman Goldie.
Yep.
Jamie King. Shout out to Jamie King. Very underused.
Who plays the
very underused
also
actress.
the twin sister.
Yeah,
we get to see a bit more. And he wakes up the next day and she's dead.
Right.
And suddenly the police are banging down his door. Marv goes into superhero mode.
He's great.
He's beating the cops up. And he's on the run. He runs to his parole officer.
Yep.
Who gives him some psychiatric medication.
And he just pops it, and it just. I just love how he just pops the top off, and they have. Like you said, he is like he's an anti-hero, but he does go in like full Superman mode because when he's running away, the cop car's coming. He literally just jumps and does like drop kicks through the windshield. I mean, it sets the tone for this is a pure.
He's kind of
a Superman. Yeah, he's some sort of
he's kind of the only one who really would have quote unquote superpowers of any of the characters. Well,
and the thing is, it's because these are intersecting stories.
Yeah.
You see when he's at the bar, Clive Owen's in the back. He's having a drink, and he says Marv would be perfect if he was born, a couple centuries earlier. You know what I mean? Because he's basically, Cro-Magnon man is basically what he's saying.
Yeah, like what did he say? Something about swinging an axe into somebody's chest or something like that. Yeah. But I like how Marv he goes on this one-man mission to find out the killer. Yeah.
Who is, again, and another person that plays against type, Tobey Maguire.
No, Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood. I'm sorry. Elijah Wood.
I was going to say, where did Tobey Maguire show up?
Everybody else is in it. Why not have Tobey Maguire in it too? But Elijah Wood is apparently this woman services the clergy. She's a high-end call, like an escort, a very high-end escort, who provides services for various high-end clergy members, and then sort of runs afoul of them. So they put a contract out on her, and she thinks by being with this superhero type that this will keep her safe. But what they do is they send in somebody very stealthy, Kevin, played by Elijah Wood.
That's right, his name's Kevin.
Who injects some sort. I think he poisons her.
Yeah, pretty
with
much.
a syringe or something like that. While Marv is passed out, while they're both passed out drunk, Marv and Goldie. So this search leads him to also an encounter with the women of Old City. Old Town.
Yeah.
And you've got Rosario Dawson, and and they're and then Goldie's twin sister, who is just wailing the hell out of Marv, and he's just amused by the whole beating that he's taken.
That's one of my favorite scenes because it shows how he can take a licking because he's tied up to a chair. We've all seen that before, and again with the colors, she's beating the hell out of him. It's all black and white except for the red all over Marv's face. And they finally get the exposition we need, and so he finally after that he literally throws the ropes off after him and kind of straightens his shakes his shoulders out. He's like, okay, let's get to business. And Rosario Dawson says something like, "You untied that? That's like my specialty." And then Goldie's sister's like, "You just sat there and took it?" Yeah, it's the stuff like that.
He's like, I thought we could reach some sort of understanding. He goes, plus I don't hurt women.
Yeah.
So he's just like, he's got a code. He's got a bit of a code that, that he kind of lives by.
And Kevin lives on that weird farm.
Yeah, he lives on the Rourke family farm.
Yeah, and Cardinal Rourke, played by Rutger Hauer, he only has that one scene, but it's a good one too. He's got a great monologue there. And then Marv just kills him,
Yeah, because Rutger Hauer, it essentially comes out that, Rutger Hauer has nothing but contempt. He's like this bureaucrat, but he's really just an evil bastard. He's a bureaucrat within the church, but he's really plugged into power. So he keeps calling Marv my son. And you're just like, he's very contemptible. And so when these women run afoul, I guess he just feeds them to Kevin.
Yep. And he eats them too.
Who eats? Yeah, they're both. Yeah, the Cardinal's also a cannibal. Yeah. The Cardinal's also a cannibal. They've got heads mounted on the walls like deer trophies. These sorts of things. His parole officer gets her hand cut off, and then you don't see it necessarily, but she describes how. He was eating her fingers, eating her fingers like right in front of her.
Yeah.
It's pretty bloodthirsty movie.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. We've got some. Patrick is here. I said Jessica Alba never looked better. That's extremely true.
Yep.
That is extremely true.
Now, if you look at the comics, Nancy, when she's dancing, is topless.
Yep.
But Jessica Alba don't play that. So
she's got a very well-known no nudity clause in Hollywood, and she had never even read the comics or the graphic novels until after she signed on, and she was very, very upset. Yeah. So, but Robert Rodriguez was basically just like, just do your thing. You'll look fine. Shut up. So you're Jessica Alba. You're dressed like a cowgirl. You're going to be a stripper. You'll be fine. Shut up.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's funny because it wasn't until after I saw the movie and I saw the graphic novel in the store and flipping through it. I'm like, oh, okay. She's in the That's a big difference between the movie and the comic.
She's another one. I think she kind of semi-retired from acting to raise a family, didn't she?
She's got a really big, successful business in beauty supplies. Like, she's now a billionaire. She doesn't have to work anymore. So she retired after that, and she can raise a family and not have to worry about Hollywood.
I think the last thing I saw her in was Machete Kills in the very beginning. She was in it in the very beginning. And she got killed by Mel Gibson, and that was, I
think that was one of her last films because that was kind of like her way out. She wanted to be in the sequel because she loves working with Robert Rodriguez. Yeah. So she said, "I'll be willing." She basically said, "I'll do the sequel if you get rid of me within 5-10 minutes."
Yeah.
I think with the revelations about Epstein and the internet and the lid is off and how actually off kilter Hollywood really is. And you're seeing these things about like Amber Heard and all these and so if you're a reasonably together person, that's probably not a great place for you to spend an enormous amount of your time. So hey, if I could do something else. And I like we talked about with the Coveney, where he said, people have to constantly feed that insecurity, that that hole. Then why wouldn't you?
Well, even Elijah Wood himself, who's in this movie, he said it. He says it's never happened to him. He's never had the casting couch, or passed around when he was young because he started really young. He never had that happen to me. He was smart and he saved his money, so he doesn't have to act again. But he says it's well known. He's like, there's no reason for actors and actresses to lie about it. It is out there.
There's something I saw on Twitter the other day where there was a con going on, and the panel from Stranger Things was there, and they were having a panel discussion, and Patton Oswalt was up there. Oh. And he just made this fucking comment at one of these kids that one of the I can't remember who
one of the main
and he was just like he said he had like a porn star name and the adults that were in there. Who's the guy who plays the cop?
He's Hellboy. What's it?
Hellboy.
David Harbour.
There you go.
David Harbour. David Harbour is like, he's like doing all this like management behind. He's just looking at him. He's like, just pay him no attention. Just ignore him. A couple of the other people that were adults were like, just ignore him. Yeah. And then they all just fucking were like death staring. Fucking Patton Oswalt.
The thing is, it's off topic. Patton Oswalt is pretty much, he's gone full crazy in my opinion. If you read his social media, he's trying his best, I think, to stay relevant. In my opinion, and he's instead of having like civil conversations, with opposing viewpoints, he just wants to be an asshole so people will talk about him. And you have his hardcore followers on Twitter, but everyone knows he's just kind of this little goblin that just yells and screams. So he wanted to, in my opinion, I think he just wanted to make a scene at this Comic-Con to get everyone talking about him, and that's why. And again, you want to do it with adults, that's one thing. Don't do it to a panel of children.
Yeah, and the kid was just like, he like put his head down, and he's like, you're like, what the fuck, man?
Mike, his wife passed away. She was, I think, an author. But Eric, no, you were talking earlier about Jessica Alba with the beauty stuff. That brings me. I just thought of it now. Same thing with Kathy Ireland. She stopped modeling. She quit modeling and put all her money into like beauty supplies, and she's like a billionaire. It's crazy, and she's like real smart too. But I mean, she's the same kind of thing. She don't even have to model ever again anymore.
Yeah, I think Cindy Crawford did the same thing. So if you can diversify,
if you're smart enough, Eva Mendes, she stopped acting.
Yeah, she became a mom.
She married Ryan Gosling and stopped acting.
Became same with Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler, she quit acting and she's just a mom now. She did, I think, one or two small little IFC films.
Some people just they run out of steam, or like you were saying, they just don't want to do it anymore. Some people just don't. They just lose the
love for it.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I'm glad I never live that life. If I ever had the opportunity, if I ever decided to go professional with acting and stuff like that, and then eventually I couldn't do that, man. That's crazy stuff.
Well, it's not just, it's not like, and we're off topic, but like when I was talking to Tony Atherton, and he lost it. We talked about, he just lost his role in Batgirl because they showed Batgirl. But there are so many, for every person that's at the top, there are 1,000 people in the middle and then 10,000 down at the bottom. So, there are lots of people that just aren't directly affected by this thing and that are just, still looking for work. So these opportunities, to do these sorts of things, it's a lot of work, but at the top, it's a little strange. But anyway, I don't know how we got on this.
I don't know.
Jessica Alba not being topless.
Oh yeah, Jessica Alba not being topless. Jessica Alba not being topless. All right. So I mean, Marv gets his revenge. And just sort of feeds Elijah Wood to the wolf after he cuts him up.
And that's another scene that I really love that also takes you back to that place and time, the 30s, the 40s, because he said you have that, and it's right out of the panels. When he goes, I have the razor wire, the gloves, my gun, and my mitts. I mean, when was the last time somebody called their hands their mitts? You know what I mean? That's what I mean in the 30s and the 40s.
He's really the only character who speaks like that, because Hardigan doesn't. He speaks it. Marv is more the hard-boiled, Sam Spade kind of the way he talks, Well,
if you look at Frank Miller's body of work,
and Frank's in the movie too, if you noticed.
He's the priest that Marv leverages. But if he shoots him, but if you see his body of work, like what he did with Elektra, or what he's done with Daredevil, or what he's done with the Dark Knight, because he did the Dark Knight, Dark Knight Returns. Which leads to the Batman versus Superman fight.
Did he do year one?
I think he did.
Frank Miller, did he do
and then he did the Dark Knight Strikes Again. So I mean, he does a lot of gritty, subverting expectations.
He's a great storyteller.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but it's all very dark.
Mhm.
It's usually very bloody. He goes a little further than a lot of other people do. It's good stuff. His Ronin storyline was just fantastic. There's a lot of you could enjoy Frank Miller for quite a long while, and it's sort of reflective in here. And I guess that brings us to the Old City, which I guess is my favorite of the four.
Well, one thing I want to say is one last thing before we get to Clive Owen and the Old Town stuff is, I love how even after Marv, he's in prison and he's still shit talking when he's hooked up to the electric chair.
Yeah.
He's like,
oh yeah,
they fixed me a decent steak and even threw in a beer. Then they shaved my head and put a diaper on me. And then they put
the best you can do.
He says, "Hurry up, I ain't got all day." So they fry him once, and then you think he's dead. Then he literally he spits out a bunch of blood, and he's like, "Is that the best you can do, you pansies?" And then they fry him. It's like he's still shit talking to the end. I love it. He's a fun, over the top character.
Yeah, it was sad that he died too. I didn't like that he died, but I guess that's what happens to him in the comic. So
yeah.
Patrick says he's a ghoul. I hate to bring this up, but I think he's still Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
His first wife died of an this is what I was talking about. His first wife died of an overdose. No, and then he remarried within a year. So there's like a rumor going around that there's some suspicion around it. And Goblin is a good way to describe it.
Well, one thing with Ryan mentioned, you said you were disappointed that Marv died right away. That's the first book. There's 7 of these, and Marv is sprinkled out. He's a little bit in the second one, which is they made that into the second movie. He's got his own little mini story in like book 5 and stuff. So he's not done with the story.
Yeah, I mean he's in the rest of the movie, just in little parts.
Like he's got a big part in the sequel too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I heard the sequel wasn't very good.
It's about 50-50. The Marv story is pretty good. The rest is just kind of there.
Yeah.
Eva Green is in it, isn't she?
She is, and unlike Jessica Alba, you see a lot of Eva Green.
And what's his name? Dennis Haysbert. Dennis Haysbert takes over for Michael Clark Duncan's part.
As Manute.
Yeah, I like Dennis Haysbert too. He's cool.
Yeah, he's good. It's tough to follow Michael Clark Duncan now.
Yeah,
he had cool such a physical presence.
And I had
Dennis Haysbert kind of does it.
I had forgotten he was in it, and then you see that scene of him where it's his hands and you hear him talking. I'm like, yeah, there he is, Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah, or when he's like pressing on Rosario Dawson's face, and you can
you
can hear the stress, going on
and you
there.
Just hear his voice first.
I'm an artist at work. Yeah,
there are some funny moments in it. Not like super. I mean, Marv has some good parts, but those I'm jumping a little bit. But those 2 henchmen, the one played by Nicky Katt, and he gets the arrow in his head. Nicky Katt's hilarious in that, and the other guy Stuka and Schutz, those 2 idiots. And it's an early film for Nick Offerman. He's in it too. He plays one of the other thugs, the guys who are arguing about the car, like, oh well, this is an agrarian, blah blah blah. I think one of those guys is Nick Offerman, which is funny. But Nicky Katt, he's just a memorable, just like henchman. He's only in the movie for a little bit, but he is pretty funny. He gets the arrow through his head. But but that Clive Owen part. See, I didn't know that he like changed his face all the time. It's his MO.
Just once, because in part 2 we find out what happened before that, because he's played by Josh Brolin.
Oh, okay.
Because Brittany Murphy drops that line, before you came back with that new face of yours.
Oh,
this shows how and why he had the plastic surgery to make him look like Clive Owen.
Yeah, but him and Jackie Boy are great, and another guy in the movie. He's one of those, hey, it's that guy who pops up in everything. He's in that part of the movie. Is the great Tommy Flanagan. He's a Scottish actor. And he's a dude with that big scar on his face. That dude's been in everything. He was in Gladiator. He was in Braveheart. He was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He always plays these great like little roles.
Sons of Anarchy.
Yep. But he's got he's definitely got like the look, you know, because he's got that. You can't miss him. But he's been in tons of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he plays the IRA bomber. He doesn't use guns. He has explosives for everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that brings us to the third story, which is the one that I like the most. Where you've got Brittany Murphy. She's playing Shelley. And a very drunk Benicio del Toro. As Benicio del Toro just looks like a werewolf.
He's under a lot of makeup too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's just so menacing in this. You know, he's got 4 guys outside, and he wants to come in, and she's got this little chain on the door, you know, and she's trying to be tough, but. You know, eventually he just comes around to saying, like, have you really forgotten that, like, I could just, like, tear this whole door off, you know, anytime I want to? Not understanding that she has a new man, Clive Owen, as Dwight.
Yep.
Who is, let him in.
Yeah.
You know? And this was during Clive Owen's heyday in Hollywood. Yeah. Clive Owen had about a 5 to 10 year run in Hollywood where he was the, you know, like, it seemed like he was going to go to the absolute, you know, zenith where he did King Arthur, and then he did that one of my favorite Spike Lee movies, The Inside Man, where he went head to head with Denzel Washington, and it's just a fantastic bank robbery film.
He did a fun action movie with Paul Giamatti called Shoot 'Em Up as a hitman. If you've ever seen that one,
I haven't.
That one is a beginning to end, just balls to the wall, over the top. Action. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend that.
At one point, his name was being thrown around as a potential James Bond.
Yeah, he would have been a great Bond back then. He's a little old. He's too old for it now, but yeah. My understanding, just to get off that for a second, Henry Cavill is in the lead right now. That's
really well. They said Idris Elba's out of the running because he's too old. There's a certain they just said they specified they wanted an actor between like a certain age, and they said Idris Elba aged out.
I think Idris Elba is close to 50.
Yeah, I think he's
probably 50. Close to 50. I think Henry Cavill's like 38.
Yeah, he'd be good, man.
Yeah, there's somebody who'd been in the military for 10, 15 years, and now moving on to, you know, MI6 or whatever, you know. Experience.
He'd be a good Bond, yeah,
that'd be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, Dwight's there, like, hey, let him in. You know, and just wanted, you know, Benicio del Toro is such a punk.
Yeah.
You know, he's beating up Brittany Murphy and, you know, just antagonizing her, and, you know, he's an asshole. I forgive you for being mad at me. You know, he just completely
projecting it on her.
Yeah, he's just completely contemptible of her.
Yep.
And it's Brittany Murphy, you know, and back then she was like, you know, the sweetheart. You know, she was kind of like, you know, America's, you know, kind of sweetheart, if they had such a thing back then in 2005 anymore. And so you're watching this guy beat up Brittany Murphy, and you're like, what the fuck, man? And one of the great things that I loved about this scene was having Clive Owen come out of the shower with that straight razor.
Yes.
And just put it right to fucking Benicio del Toro's eye. Hi, I'm Shelley's new boyfriend, and I'm out of my mind.
Yeah. And if you don't, I don't know if you notice, you have to pay attention. Del Toro is looking, his eyes pointed right at that straight razor. The whole time, you know, Owen, you know, Dwight's talking and saying that he's going to do this, he's going to do that, you know, let her go, all that stuff. And it's a great, intense moment, because I don't know if Owen is looking at Del Toro the whole time. He might be looking at the camera, you know, just to give like the noir inner monologue, stuff like that. But the way Del Toro, you know, Jackie would he's just staring at that straight razor, doesn't say a word, but he shows his fear. Like this fucker can just scoop it out like it's nothing.
Yeah. And then, I mean, what's even better than that, he shoves his head down the toilet.
Yeah, he just took a piss and he's
camera
like,
shot.
Yeah, that's great.
You forgot one thing. You forgot to flush, and then boom.
Yeah. And, you know, you could see his face, and he's still got the cigarette in his mouth.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, and
he grabs the handle, and Owen just kicks his hand off.
Yeah, just get away from that. Yeah. Now you got more water to drink. And then he comes up, like, 'cause I hadn't seen it. I knew he wasn't dead, But I'm like, fuck, I thought for a second today watching it, fuck, he killed him. Just for a split, and then he jumps up, he comes back to life, and it immediately vomits up all that toilet water. Yeah, and you're just saying he just got fucking punked, man. Like he must have drowned in the toilet. His full of piss water, and it's fucking foul. And then he just
even in black and white, you just know that's disgusting. Just watching him vomit all that, unflushed piss.
Yeah. Oh, that's fucking foul, man.
Yeah.
And then they leave.
Mm-hmm.
It works.
And she's yelling to him, to Dwight, remember, as he's leaving, but he doesn't hear what she's saying. And she's yelling, he's a cop.
And he thinks she's saying stop.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a helicopter flying above and you can't hear her properly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
now,
it.
This would have no bearing on the story. I mean, this would crush the story, but he could have stopped right there. He probably would have left her alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he's a coward. He's a bully, and the minute you stand up to a bully, because he wasn't willing to admit to his friends what had happened, they could have all piled in that bathroom and probably killed him.
Right.
But he would have had to have admitted, what had happened to him, and he wasn't willing to do that.
One thing before we get to Old Town is, you talked about Brittany Murphy being, America's sweetheart at the time. It was nice seeing her stick up for herself after she got slapped. She's standing there and she's calling him a goddamn coward. And again, the way it looks, it's black and white. You got the little red coming down her mouth. And then she grabs a knife and she looks right at him. She's like, "You come any closer?" And again, when was the last time you heard someone say this? "I'll cut your little pecker off." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way she looked at it, the way she looked on screen, you could tell she wasn't putting up with any more shit. And I thought her performance, like she sprinkled here out, whether she's trying to be sexy or flirty in the bar, or tough right here. Brittany Murphy, I think, is really good in this movie.
I think she was cut down before she hit her prime.
Yeah, I think so.
She was an ascending star. People like to watch her. I mean, she went all the way back to Clueless, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was like her first movie, I think.
Yep. Yeah, and she was, kind of the pudgy girl, like, to play against Alicia Silverstone. And then all of a sudden she lost all that weight and she went blonde. And you're like, wow, okay, this is Brittany. Holy shit, okay.
Yeah,
Brittany,
she didn't have a long career. It's a shame.
No, she was like 32.
Very young.
She was extremely young when she passed. It's a great tragedy,
It's just, and it's still one of those, like we were saying, it's just one of those, to this day, it's still weird what happened, and like that her husband died the same way, like a year later or something. Like, it was just bizarre.
Hold on a second. We've got Slasher Fred. He said, speaking of Alexa Vega, Cheetah, if you have ever seen that movie, Little Giants, Alexa Vega is in the movie. Okay, I don't know who Alexa Vega is, but okay. All right, so Jackie Boy is off to reset himself in Old Town, to find some new person to fucking, like any bully, he's off to find somebody else he can fucking bully. And he decides that it's a good idea to go into Old Town, where he immediately runs afoul of all the women there, because Old Town is a city where the women take care of themselves. They have their own protection in exchange for providing services to the police officers, and the police officers don't get out of hand. If the police officers do get out of hand, they just kind of send them packing. Maybe with a smack in the head. You get the impression you might get a smack, but nothing really awful is going to happen to you. And then all of a sudden, Benicio del Toro is drunk. He's angry. He's trying to pick a fight with that one girl who's just walking away. And they all just fucking descend on him. And one of my favorite characters again is Miho.
Oh yeah.
So she's cool.
She's just fucking great, and she's just a fucking killer. And she throws like a swastika shuriken. Or I don't know if it's the Indian, because that's also in India.
It's a Hindu symbol or something.
Yeah, it's a Hindu symbol for auspiciousness. And
with Miller, you never really know.
Yeah, so it's thousands of years before Adolf Hitler, grabbed the fucking symbol. The Indians were using it in a positive way, and they still do.
I could see it being maybe more that than an actual swastika. You know what I mean? Because I mean, she's dressed in full, Japanese garb, and she's got the katana and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that's probably more what it is. Is just
There's no references to the Nazism or any of that bullshit.
It's just the swastika is just so recognizable. That's what a lot of people.
Well, and I think the swastika is like the inverted version of the Hindu symbol. It's something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
But suddenly Del Toro has no hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leo's just fucking, and then he's trying to get the gun in the other hand. he died really fucking good in this movie.
Yeah.
That was all Del Toro when he's walking around, where he's crawling around. He's got the stump, and he needs to get his gun out of his his hand. That's cut off. That was him. He decided right there on spot to lift it up with his hand or with his mouth and use his teeth to pull apart the fingers so he can get his gun. And Robert Rodriguez, he's like, that's perfect. We're using that.
Now, before we had gotten a look at these women from the Marv storyline, Rosario Dawson, and I don't think we had Miho in it.
No,
but a couple of the other women here. Rosario Dawson is kind of the leader of these women, the de facto sort of leader. I mean, they just chew these fucking guys up. And then, hold on a second. And then we can see that we ended up finding out for the first time that Jackie Boy's a cop.
Yep.
So this is going to ruin the truce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is me. So the police are going to descend on Old Town and force, because it's kind of a handshake deal. Yeah. These women are violent, but they're not in a position to take on the police and organized crime.
Right. I forget.
They're not an army.
I forget. How does Jackie Boy die?
He is going to shoot Dwight. No, he's going to shoot Miho. And he's got the gun. She throws something down the barrel of a gun.
That's right.
And Dwight says, "Don't do it. It's going to backfire." And he's basically like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
He pulls the trigger, and the chamber impales him in the skull.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But it's not that either, because he can still. He's like, I can't see anything.
Oh, that's right. And then Miho, she cuts his throat.
Yeah, she turns him into a Pez dispenser.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His head
he actually says that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like his voice changes at one point in the car when the car hits the brake. And his voice goes way up like this.
And that was a great surprise, because I had totally forgotten that she cut his throat until when he had that sequence where, Dwight thinks Jackie's talking to him, and he goes and his you just see his throat just open, the wound open, and it's just a great scene.
And you could almost tell, like, even
that's
you
Tarantino.
Could almost tell that's the Tarantino scene.
Yep.
Like, just the first time you watch it, you're like, that's got to be the Tarantino scene right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good.
But this in turn somehow because they have a rat, they have a mole in the women.
Becky. That girl. Yeah.
Becky, she ends up calling the police, which brings Michael Clark Duncan and a small group there. To start roughing people up.
Now,
and
I forget, who did Manute work for? The police?
And the mob.
He works for the mob, and there's more to it in part 2, which is, like I said, the story with Dwight getting with his original face, because Manute is a big character in that story.
Okay. So he's like the mob enforcer guy, but he's dressed like a bellhop.
Yeah,
and he's dressed like a train porter, like it's funny. Like
tickets,
with
please,
that, he's got like a golden ball where his
he has like that cybernetic
eye.
I think you find out how he loses his eye in the first Dwight story.
But he's dressed like a Pullman porter, a train porter. It's funny with that jacket and everything.
A train porter the size of the Hulk.
The size of a train.
I'm not gonna go to Michael Clark Duncan and says you look goofy in that outfit.
He was awesome, man. I love Michael Clark Duncan.
I think a little too much gas is what ended up killing him. Just weakened his heart out, and his heart just
too much gas.
Performance enhancing.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what he was doing? Oh, okay.
Yeah, PEDs. Not too many PEDs. But that's what made him.
Mm-hmm.
That's so it's kind of a double-edged sword.
His first movie was
Armageddon,
Bullworth.
I think.
Bullworth. He was a bouncer in the club when Bulworth goes into the club with Halle Berry.
Well,
he's standing there. He's a bouncer, and he's credited as Big Mike Duncan. I'm
well,
like, that's Michael Clark Duncan. Like, that's cool.
I don't know when that came out. He's actually in
99.
Well, okay. Well, he's actually in Friday, the first Friday with Ice Cube.
Is he?
The scene where Tiny Lister Debo, he comes and he, that's my mama's chain. He knocks the people out, and Chris Tucker's playing, craps and everything. Mm-hmm. He is one of the 3 guys playing, on the sidewalk with him. He doesn't say a word, but that's him. You can't fucking miss him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's been around for a while, but I think his first major role might have been, like you said, Bulworth. But I know Armageddon.
Oh, he's great.
That was what put him on the map.
Armageddon, and then that's what got him into the Green Mile because Bruce Willis said, hey, get this guy.
Yeah, he was phenomenal in that. Yeah,
he's another one who was just right at the peak where he was ready to make that big break, and then he was only like 40.
Mm-hmm.
He was very young. Yeah, he was very young. Yeah, he was only like 40.
Wow.
And very sad. Very sad. Someone you have loved to have seen, another 20, 30, 40 years of work out of him.
Let me see. He was 54 when he died.
Oh, really?
Oh, 54. Okay.
Yeah.
It's still young for a heart attack.
His last movie was Green Lantern.
Oof.
I didn't see that.
That's not a good one to end on. Okay.
Wait, no. He was in that show Bones.
I didn't.
He was in a couple TV shows before he passed away, but his last movie was, I think, Green Lantern.
All right. Well, let's get back to the film. This brings Michael Clark Duncan. Wow, and this is great because I had forgotten about this. Like I said, I hadn't seen it in 15 years. Clive Owen is going to bury all the bodies in the these dinosaur tar pits.
The tar pits.
They're live dinosaur tar pits in the city. Yeah.
Because why not, right?
Yeah, why not? They're not going to look in the tar pits.
And then aren't they using they're using Jackie Boy's head as like ransom or something like that? Like, don't they have his head for like the IRA guys?
The IRA guys get.
They get some. They need some proof that these women have killed these people.
Correct.
And so if they can get Benicio del Toro's head and show that to the cops and the organized crime, then they can take over the city.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get the impression that this truce is kind of a begrudging kind of thing. If they could just run the whole thing, then that works out fine. Which turns into its own fight because Miho happens to be following Clive Owen, and he almost gets the car in there, and she just chews them up.
Yep. Deadly little Miho, as he calls it.
And Clive Owen doesn't play a punk either. I mean, he gets in there and he'll kill as many people as he can.
My daughter was watching this part because she's 10. It's nothing that she can't see and she just thought it was so cool how just the way it looked like Clive Owen actually shoots through the head of a dead body to get to one of the IRA guys, and she's just like, wow, this guy's really cool with guns. And it just shows how you don't know his backstory, but he knows what he's doing with a weapon too.
Right. Right.
What is he exactly, Dwight? Is he a private detective or something?
I think he I don't know if he's officially a hitman, but he's like a mercenary you can hire type of thing.
Okay. Because it's never explained what he is. I was just wondering what he must he's like a hired gun or a mercenary or something. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So that brings Miho and Dwight back to the city after they deal with the IRA. And they use Benicio del Toro's head as an IED. Which essentially, gives them enough space. And I thought it was really cool that Dwight chose the place to fight as that narrow alley where they couldn't get around him or get behind. He bottlenecked them. It's almost like 300.
Yep.
The passage to fight is so narrow that it doesn't make a difference if you have 1 million people. We're gonna chop you up, to get to us. And so the IED goes off, and then all the women are just waiting on the high. It's like Revenge of the Sith. They've got the high ground.
And you got the red sky.
Yeah.
And I love that scene because he showed before, the girls, they let loose. Clive Owen's holding Jackie Boy's head, and and they're saying something's not quite right. His mouth wasn't taped, but before that, because that's where the bomb is, Jackie Boy says something, and Clive Owen just looks at him and is just like, "Shut up," So he's still letting him talk to him because like you said, he's out of his mind. He knows that.
Yeah, he's clearly he's experiencing hallucinations, and he's out to lunch. And that's kind of how that story ends, and you realize, and then, Rosario Dawson and Clive Owen have a thing that's never going to become a thing.
Right.
So that's a typical noir kind of, Casablanca, we'll always have Paris.
Right.
That kind of thing. And so I guess he goes back to Brittany Murphy, a tough life, life is rough.
Yeah. Right.
Now that brings us back to Hartigan.
Yep.
Hartigan is essentially being framed for all of the murders that Rourke has done.
Yep.
The child killings and whatever, child serial rapist, child serial rapist, all these different things. All of that weight is falling on him. And that Powers Booth. That's where Powers Booth gives his monologue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And again, that reminded me of this. That reminded me of the scene from Pulp Fiction. With Ving Rhames and Bruce Willis, because Bruce Willis has nothing. He can't say anything.
Powers was another talent that is sorely missed. He was good in everything, whether it's this, whether it's Frailty, which I don't know if we've ever talked about that one on the channel yet.
Not yet. We got to get to it.
Or if it's just a cheesy action movie, that Brandon Lee movie Rapid Fire. Powers is it doesn't matter.
He's great
he's always
he's
good.
great in Tombstone. Ferocious. I mean, he's great in that. Yeah.
He's great in awesome. He's great in Deadwood.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's right.
He's he's a pimp and a saloon owner. He's just a slimy, evil bastard, man.
He was in a shitty Van Damme movie called Sudden Death, where they take, a hockey game hostage. And he was good in that too. So it doesn't matter what the movie is, he's always good.
It was Die Hard in a hockey rink, basically.
Pretty much.
Sudden Death.
Well, there's a difference between Bruce Willis and Van Damme, though.
Obviously, yeah. Yeah.
So Bruce Willis falls onto the trope that, here's what I have. Bruce Willis always takes a beating. So he has no choice but to, take the weight.
Right.
So if he tells anybody, they're going to kill it. If he tells his wife, they're going to kill his wife. If he tells anybody the truth, they're going to kill that person.
Yep.
So he's basically railroaded into taking the blame for the thing that he helped prevent and, sort of end. Powers Booth, being, stereotypically evil, actually nurses him back to health just so he can beat on him and make him suffer and make sure that he survives and he endures for years.
8 years.
And 8 years in prison. Every week, getting a different letter from Nancy under a false name that helps keep him going. And then after 8 years, I think 3 weeks go by or something like that, and he receives no word.
Correct.
So he's convinced that Nancy has been discovered, and in order to be released, he ends up because what they do is he denies everything, but they convict him anyway. But then to let him out, he actually has to confess to everything. Yeah,
because eventually he does finally get a letter that has a severed finger in it. So
that's right. Yeah. He gets the letter with the severed finger in it, and he falls on his sword and says, "Yes, I did all these things." And they say, "Okay, well, you've owned up to everything. You're rehabilitated." And even that, it's managed.
Yeah.
The whole thing is a setup. The entire thing is a setup to get him out in the open, to get him to go to Nancy, because the Nick Stahl still wants to kill her.
Yeah, she's the one that got away.
It's all just some evil revenge plot, that's taken almost a decade, to bear some kind of fruit. He walks into the bar, and there is Nancy.
Yeah, he calls her sweet little Nancy, all grown up.
Yeah, and that is equal. I just saw it for the first time in 15 years. That might be better than Salma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn.
It's tough for me.
I don't need to see a fucking python. I don't need to see a fucking serpent. Towards the end, it gets really good. And it certainly is a less is more. It's a much shorter scene. I mean,
absolutely.
It's maybe 30 seconds, period.
Right.
But damn, I mean, that is, and she probably was at that time about 19.
Yeah, because that's what she's supposed to be.
Yeah, she plays 19. She, obviously, very young. And it's fantastic to watch. It might be the best visual in the whole fucking film.
And the black and white helps.
Yeah.
The
black and white and the speed, the way they slowed it down. Because if you were to move that at speed, it probably wouldn't look nearly as it would look clumsy.
And the thing is, Jessica Alba, I mean, we're admitted she's very sexy looking. You know what I mean? The way they have her, she's moving, she's doing typical, stripper moves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like you said, with the speed, the way they slow it down, they make it even more sexy and sensual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we made the joke she doesn't get topless, but in this scene, she doesn't need to be sexy at all.
No. It's all right there, and it works just fine. And I remember in when she did the Fantastic Four. And she hasn't got control of her powers yet, and she takes off her clothes and on the street.
Yep.
And then she starts to like change back. Yeah. She's like covering herself up. There's one scene there where the guy in the crowd is standing behind her. I guess he's like an extra, and he's just like locked onto her ass. Like the extra is this black guy, and if you ever watch it, the next time that happens, if you remember, look at that scene. There's a black guy, and he is just locked on
That's fucking hilarious.
So I mean, she is just fucking stunningly gorgeous and beautiful. Filmed to great effect. It is one of the highlights of this movie. Her period. That may be, the best thing. But the way, that this was shot, and the cinematography and the use of color, because I think her hair is still blonde.
Yeah,
you can see the yellow in her hair.
But the yellow, blonde, brown mixture. Yeah,
it just looks gold.
Yeah,
it just looks golden. Like she's just. Ethereal almost, it's just, you're like, wow, this is fucking amazing. And of course, Bruce Willis, being the dumb dope that he is, realizes that he's been duped. And there's Nick Stahl looking like he looks, but I guess in Sin City, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I always.
You got Marv still there, so what's the difference between a yellow weirdo and Marv? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because
I suppose so, but they knew Marv. I mean, Shelley knew Marv.
That's what I was like. How did his gun injuries make him end up looking like that?
Well, he says something towards the end. He says because he lost an ear, he lost his he lost his balls, he lost his hand, and he said Dad basically paid to have. I think he literally says my junk regrown because he wants a grandchild, and this was a side effect. Is what it was. The yellow skin and the bulbous head, and the ears and stuff like that. He said it was due to the medical. I don't know if it was an experiment or whatever, because he's got his hand back too. You know what I mean? So,
but he has that weird kind of bloated belly, and he's
and it's weird if you see the behind the scenes stuff. Nick Stahl is he's not yellow, he's blue. He's all painted blue. Like Mike, you've got the DVD. I've got that one too. Robert Rodriguez plays the whole movie as a bonus feature in front of the green screen, so you can see everything they did, and it's only like 3 minutes long because the movie is sped up 500 times the speed, so you can just see what they did and stuff like that. But when Nick Stahl just walks out and he's just all blue holding Jessica Alba like that, it's just it's fucking funny. He looks like a malformed Smurf, you know what I mean, holding her.
Yeah, he does.
So they painted him blue so he'd show up yellow on the
the way that they did
that's like when why everybody thinks Frankenstein's monster is green, because he was painted green so he would show up really pale white on screen and on the black and white.
Yeah,
so
I knew that like with the Munsters, with Herman Munster. That's why he's green. Yep.
Yeah. So
So she just jumps off the fucking stage, and it's a thing of beauty. I mean, in the scene, she's just so fucking gorgeous, and just to watch her make that leap, you're like, fuck, man.
Yeah, she leaps like right over Marv and everything. Just to get
Marv's just like fucking lucky bastard.
And the thing is, that's a funny shot too, because you know. Yeah. It's her dancing, being sexy, and then we literally have like an upshot of Marv just looking up, staring at her with puppy dog eyes, sipping out a beer type of thing. He's like, I could never get a chick like her type of thing.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast. It's just Beauty and the Beast, man. I mean, that bar is just full of monsters.
And that's probably why Junior, he was able to walk in like that. They're not going to give a shit. You paying for your beer? Come on in. It doesn't matter what you look like.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, okay. Bruce Willis, Hartigan is trying to get her out of there, but Rorker's already waiting. And then the shooting begins. And then Rourke ends up getting her away from him.
Right.
Yeah, okay. All right. So
but they had the shootout, during
he explains what happened to him, why he looks that way. He shoots his ear. He shoots him again. He shoots him in the throat. He shoots him in the throat, and then he falls off the little hill or whatever. And while Hartigan and Nancy are looking, because there's the yellow blood trails, while they're distracted looking for that, he gets in their trunk, and then they go to oh, that's right, and
then they go to the motel. Then he kidnaps her, and then he gets knocked out because he's taking a shower. The yellow bastard knocks him out, and right before he passes out, he says, "You remember me, Hartigan?" As the yellow blood is still like pouring down him.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up, and he's hanging from a noose just on his tippy toes on a table.
Yeah. Because there's the back and forth as to whether or not he wants to be with her.
Right, because
he's like old enough to be your grandfather.
And she doesn't care.
He's
and
like, there's wrong, and there's wrong, and then there's this.
And then, but
she's like, I don't care.
And once she finally locks lips with him, he puts his arm on her, so he's going for it before he pushes her away.
Yeah, yeah. So there's that back and forth, because honestly, who are they going to relate to?
Right.
It's one of those weird, it's a graphic novel, but it's in the story, who else are they going to relate to? And so, Roy gets her back again
to the farm again.
He hangs Bruce Willis.
Yep.
Yeah.
He takes the table out.
Yeah, and one of the sillier scenes. Bruce Willis comes back from getting hung.
Yeah.
Doesn't he swings through the window?
That's straight out of the comic.
Keep your neck tight. Keep your
neck tight. And then he swings back and forth. He breaks it with his feet, so it's a kind of cool seeing him break a window with his
the glass.
But it was kind of cool seeing Bruce Willis do that again, like with Die Hard. You know what I mean? When he swings through with the bloody feet.
Moment there, yeah.
But he cuts it with a big a shard of glass. It's like a fucking half a foot long, so he can cut the ropes on his hands. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just okay. So
in a movie or a story with characters like Marv and that yellow bastard, you gotta allow something like that.
This is the least of our concerns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that brings us to sort of the end of the movie.
Back on the farm, and you get to see Kevin reading under a tree again.
Yeah. And everything's happening at this fucking farm. And she's being tortured. But then before he can kill her, Hartigan gets in there and
because before while he because in the hotel he injects her with some type of poison or knockout juice, whatever you want to call it, and he tells her before she passes out, he says, "Don't scream." That's what he likes. So while he's whipping her, she doesn't scream because she's even taunting him. He's like, they're right. You can't even get it up unless I scream. So she's drawing it out just in case Hartigan shows up.
And plus, she's a strong character.
She is.
Yeah. She's a very strong character. And, she's the rare thing. Well, she's what you don't see nowadays. She's a strong feminine character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Strong female characters now are just obnoxious assholes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, they had take like the worst characteristics of men, and that's what constitutes a strong character. But she is strong. She's feminine. You know, she suffers. She grows. I liked her. I mean, obviously Jessica Alba is drop dead gorgeous, but I like this character.
Yeah.
She's a damsel in distress, air quotes, but she can handle her own. You can tell she can handle her own in a fight.
Yeah.
All of the women in this movie were like that. All of the women in Old Town.
They're beautiful and deadly.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Well, and then you see, and earlier in the movie when Marv goes into Carlo Gugino's room and she's got the gun. You know, she's got the gun under her pillow or whatever, and she's standing there. Yeah, I mean, she's the parole officer. Yeah, they all have. Yeah, all the women. That's what I like in this is that there are no like gentle.
They're not pushovers.
No, they're very strong women.
They're no delicate flowers. Yeah,
they're not delicate flowers, but they're still feminine.
Yeah,
and it's for me, the magic ingredient in that is the femininity. That still is maintained. You know, because like Nancy almost has an adoration for Hartigan.
Yeah, because she
recognizes him. Yeah.
She says she you know in the scene in the very beginning when she's 11, you know, she says you know, I love you as she walks out. But I think, you know, she falls in love with him because of what he did for him.
Yeah.
But you can tell that you know that's an 11-year-old kid saying that. You know, 11-year-old kids say a lot of things, but the way Jessica Alba acts, like just the way she cracks that smile when she's entertaining the most disgusting people of the city, but she looks at Hartigan, she doesn't give a shit anymore. She cracks that smile, and you can tell the way with her body language, she really does love him.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is a really cool relationship because there's there's a very little sexual tension, you know what I mean? But the chemistry between Jessica and Bruce, I think is really good.
Yeah.
In the very few scenes they have together.
I think so. Yeah.
It's some of the better acting, actually, because a lot of the acting in this film can be a bit flat.
Yeah.
Here, with these two, you actually have a bit of rapport. Like Rutger Hauer. Like, I love Rutger Hauer. Rutger Hauer's character in this is just kind of...
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know,
he's kind of, it's weird when he's on screen. It's kind of the point because
it's pulpy.
It's
pulp. So it's pulp. There's not going to be an enormous amount of, you know, substance. This isn't, you know, contextual and, you know, these sorts of things. But with these two, there is something there. And then, you know, he kills Rourke.
Ooh, yeah.
Beats him to a pulp and then rips his stuff, his junk off.
He rips his junk out, and then he just beats his face until I think he literally says until it's just like wet pounds of flesh into the floorboards. And that's that panel is straight out of the graphic novel, because you see Hartigan, you know, swinging down to the ground. You have the yellow mess coming behind him.
And so that leaves where he sends Nancy off. I think he says he's going to catch up.
Yeah.
And then he realizes that this is kind of a death sentence.
Yep, as long as he's alive, she's in danger.
Yeah, because Powers Booth will never let this rest.
Yeah, because he can never have his grandchild now.
Right.
Yeah.
So he has a heart attack, essentially.
He shoots himself.
He shoots himself in the head.
Does he shoot himself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought he had a heart attack.
No, because you see him point. He said, you know, he literally points the gun to his head, and you see it's just a white silhouette, and he blows the back.
It's like in the comic, It's the same exact frame.
Okay. You know what happened? I finished this with about 3 minutes left before the previous stream.
Oh, okay.
So I may have been looking at writing notes and looking at something.
It's very quick. It's right at the end of that monologue. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the movie.
Yeah.
No. Then we go back to the hospital. And what's her name? The prostitute from Old City.
Yeah,
Becky.
Yeah,
Becky.
The Gilmore Girls chick. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Is there, and she's talking to her mom. And you know, her betrayal is not, you know, because at first it's like, well, they threatened my mom.
Right.
You know, and there was Dawson that's like, well, we could bring your mom to Old City. You know, she'd be protected.
Yeah.
But essentially, what they offer her is a way out of the life. You know, I guess they offer her money and a chance to set her up somewhere, or, you know, here's the money and just go. You know, just start over, whatever. And I think that's what the other women can't abide.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, if you had, you know, threatened your mother, well, yeah, maybe nobody can stand up to that. Okay, you know, you're threatening somebody I love. I get it. But if you're just going to do it to ditch us here.
They took it as an insult, because you can also tell that they'd be like, well, we could protect your mom.
Yeah.
You didn't have to rat us out, and look what it caused.
Yeah.
Or what it could have caused if we didn't take care of Jackie Boy and all that.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at all the blood we had to spill.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, people got hurt. We had to kill a bunch of people just because
a lot of the girls from Old Town were killed during this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just turns into a fucking mess. And I guess they hired Josh Harnett.
Yeah.
To bring the story to a close.
To take her out. Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm sure he's known, because the look she gives him when she takes that cigarette, she knows it's over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he knows her name.
Yeah.
He knows her name. And he shouldn't know that. And
right.
Now, is his character in the graphic novel?
Yes, he is. Only the very beginning. The very beginning where he kills the blonde. That is just like a 4 or 5 panel story. And like, because the first 4 are books. Then like number 5 is like a handful of short stories thrown together. There's another Marv story. There's Josh Hartnett's story. So yeah, that beginning sequence is, because like I said, in the graphic novel, Becky is killed during the firefight down the alley.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She lives in the movie just to have that little stinger of the ending.
Yeah. And the blonde in the beginning is the actress Millie Shelton, who was in Planet Terror and Death Proof. She was the nurse.
She was the nurse with the hand. And if you like baseball movies, she was also the Sandlot. She's the lifeguard from the Sandlot. She's the lifeguard that all the kids had the crush on.
Oh, that's her. Oh, Mandy Peppercorn or whatever her name
Wendy
is.
Peppercorn.
Wendy Peppercorn.
Squints tries to drown just so he could fake mouth to mouth from her.
Yeah, that's her. That's funny.
What was that, like 95?
Now what?
Yeah, very early.
That's an old classic, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you were to put this movie in chronological order, what comes first?
That would be tough. Marv's is obviously the last one, because he dies.
Yeah.
And he's alive during that Yellow Bastard. And I think you see him in the bar.
And Kevin's alive during that Yellow Bastard. Yeah.
True. So I think Marv's story, but that's how all the books are, like, because you have another Marv story. Like, Marv dies in book 1. He's in book 2. He's in book 4, and then he's in, like, you know, he has his own story that they put in the sequel of the movie, and that's in like book 5 or 6. So kind of like how Tarantino does his jumping around stuff. Yeah, that's just how the movie is. But I think Marv's story is definitely the end. I'm not sure about the other 2.
I think maybe Hardigan's first.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to tell the way it's edited.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's the first time I've seen it in 15 years. It'll probably be a bit before I watch it again. It's not. Well, it's on HBO. Or you're welcome.
I have it.
Okay.
I have it.
Yeah, I rewatched it again last night.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw the post. The post on Twitter. So, is there anything we missed that you wanted to talk about before we start to wrap this up?
For me, no. I mean, we'll get to the ratings and stuff like that. I know you like to do, but obviously, I really enjoy this movie. I didn't know the source material before I saw this. I went to saw this in the theater just because I thought it looked cool, and I love Robert Rodriguez. He always has a fun movie. Like, even the Spy Kids movie, I watched them for my daughter, but I had fun with them. You know what I mean? Yeah. He always has fun, and he's totally different than like a Tarantino movie. Yeah. And then when I read the graphic novels, I could appreciate what he tried to do even more. You know what I mean? The sequel has its hit and misses. The Marv story is good. The Dwight story is excellent. We have a couple stories that are just kind of blah, but we do get to see a Nancy story originally written just for the sequel, which I think is pretty good. She has visions of Hardigan talking to her. They brought Bruce Willis back, and I don't know if she goes after Powers Booth's character. Yes, because this was Powers. The second one was Powers' last film before he passed. So
did Jessica Alba come back for the second one?
Yeah, the only ones that that did not return was Clive Owen, because it was a different face, and they wanted to bring him back and put him under makeup, but he had like scheduling conflicts, so they got Josh Brolin because they're like he's got different face. Brittany Murphy, obviously, and they did not recast her character, and then they had to recast Minute, Michael Clark.
And Michael Madsen didn't come back, did he?
No, that's true. He's recast as well. Bob's
really?
in it for like 2 or 3 scenes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not important.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in it?
Yes, he plays an original character, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And his character was they originally were going to try to get Johnny Depp to do it, and Depp wanted to do it, but again, scheduling conflicts.
And then what about Rosario Dawson? She come back?
Oh, yeah, she is back too.
Okay.
You've got
so is Mickey Rourke as Marv. He's back too.
Yeah.
It's screening on Roku, Hulu, and Amazon.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
The second movie. Yeah, maybe I'll check it out too.
It's not as good. It's hit and miss, but it's worth watching at least once to see. At least, like I said, the Dwight story I think is really good to see how he got his face, and him and Marv team up, and that's really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
To take on Eva Green's character.
Okay.
Eva Green has had a run where she's done a number of nude scenes.
Mm-hmm.
In the second, she's the villain in the second 300 movie.
Okay.
She's like she's Xerxes' daughter.
Okay.
They made a second 300.
Yeah. And I forget who the main character is, but it's another famous historical Greek who fought again a couple of more skirmishes. Gerard Butler's wife in the movie. She's in it again too.
Oh, okay. Connie Nielsen.
Yeah, Connie Nielsen. Connie Nielsen's in it again, sort of leading the Greeks, saying that we're not done yet. They're coming back. They're not going to be satisfied because it wasn't just Sparta. They want to take over the other, and I think it's about the fight for Athens.
Okay.
But she's in that, and then if any of you ever get a chance, Penny Dreadful.
You keep telling me about that.
Yeah.
It's
I watched the first season. Yeah.
It's so good. She's so good. It's great to see Timothy Dalton.
Hartnett's in it, right?
Yeah, Josh Hartnett is in it. It's a fantastic story.
She's really funny in Dark Shadows. She was. Her and Johnny Depp are great in that. They have some great scenes, and
that scene where they're about ready to have sex, but they're flying around the room and just destroying everything. And that's what's fun with her, because she can play, like, she plays an evil bitch in part 2 of Sin City, but then she can go play something goofy as hell in Dark Shadows, and you still like her character. And you mentioned, Mike said, she's not afraid of doing nudity. They actually got in trouble with the poster for Sin City 2 because one of it is just her silhouette. And they had to Photoshop out her nipple because they sent it to the printers and to the theaters and stuff with the nudity, not edited out, and it caused like a big panic with parents and stuff like that.
Gosh,
I still say
her. Take your kid to see that movie.
Yeah, why would you take your kid to see Sin City?
Well, no. The thing is, it was the movie poster, that you see on the walls walking through the theaters. Like, some kids going to see, fucking Sonic or something like that. And there's Eva Green in full everything. So.
I still
the first thing I saw her in was Casino Royale.
I think that's her in terms of cinema. I think that's her best role.
Yeah.
Vesper Green. She was what was her last name? Vesper Lynn. Yeah, she was fantastic in that. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, let's get to the ratings. Now again, we have from 0, as in I'm contacting my attorneys. And I'm taking legal action for whoever made me watch this fucking movie, all the way to 5, which is, this is the best thing I've ever seen, or, in that, this is the tip of the spear. This is the destination. Half points are allowed, so you can go half star all the way to 0, half star, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. Ryan, what would you give this movie?
Probably a 4. I love the visuals in it. Again, that's like, I love the way it's filmed. The cast is fantastic. I mean, it's one of the best ensembles I've ever seen a movie. Not enough Carla Gugino.
You see
not
plenty,
enough.
though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's yeah. Not enough Carla Gugino. My own personal thing. I loved Marv. I was upset that he died. I know that's how the story goes. Not enough Michael Madsen. I know he came in at the last minute. But I think I'd have to see it again to see if it aged well, because it's been over 10 years since the movie's been out. It's almost 20 actually.
2005.
Yeah. So I enjoy it immensely. I mean, it's not a movie I wouldn't ever see again. Like I said, the cast, but I would say solid 4 probably for me.
Okay. Eric.
I've stated numerous times that this is like in my top 5 movies of all time. Now my tastes differ from a lot of people, you know what I mean? But even though this is one of my favorite movies, we've all acknowledged that a lot of the movies we love does have its faults. I'm still gonna give it a 4.5.
Okay.
The reason why I'm not giving it a perfect score like I've done Predator and stuff like that is because the dialogue sometimes, if you're not in the right mood or you don't know what you're getting into, it's very stilted. Like Mike says, the acting isn't the best with a lot of characters. But I have so much fun with this. Like you said, Ryan, the visuals are great. We mentioned these women. These are tough chicks. These aren't these aren't women. These are tough chicks.
I like
you know what I mean?
that.
There's a difference between a woman and a tough chick.
Yeah.
Marv is a fun character. Jackie Boy is an amazing villain.
Benicio del Toro I love everything that man does. I mean, he's one of the few leading actors who remains a character actor. He's always, every movie I see him in, he's got a different voice or a different mannerism or a different face everything. He's great in Snatch. He's great in
Rocky Four Fingers.
Yeah, Sicario. All those movies, even in Last Jedi, he's great.
The voice and the tick he's got,
and he's got that silly stutter, and as soon as he started that stutter, I'm like, oh, that's a Benicio del Toro character. Because he always and it's great though that he comes up, because as an actor, I always try to come up with different voices for my characters. So I think I really love that he does that. He never plays
the same character twice
himself or the same character, and he's not super outlandish like Johnny Depp.
Right.
It's like Freddie Fenster or something, where he'll sit and you can't understand a word he's saying in Usual Suspects. But that's just his cat. He's just amazing in everything he does.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Marv, I think Jackie Boy would probably be my favorite character. But it's just a fun, honestly, fantastic movie. And I am a sucker for noir films. I love hearing the inner monologues, and everyone has an inner monologue. So, but sometimes the acting is a little stilted. I'll take off like half a point with that, because sometimes I'm just like, okay, I just want to see Marv, drive that car and drag the guy's face on the concrete instead, type of thing. But 4.5.
I would go with 3.5.
Okay.
I'll go 3.5. Again, there are one of the stories out of the 4. Well, one is my favorite, which is the the Dwight storyline. The Dwight, the Miko, the Old Town storyline, the one I appreciated the most. I again, like you guys said, it has a great ensemble. A 5-star ensemble. And it's beautifully shot. And certain things that we've discussed in detail just stand out. You're like, wow, that's fucking remarkable. I did think that some of the characters, or maybe even half, are kind of flat. And I didn't so much like the idea that they pulled the dialogue directly from the graphic novel or graphic novel like dialogue in the screen. It would be interesting if you could today make a movie like that, knowing what we know now, what they will be able to do with it. I think that for a really bold director, Rodriguez could go at it again and not lift directly from one of the books, the dialogue directly that way. It would be something, but it's a fun movie. Again, one of the things, and in talking about it, and this hadn't occurred to me until we started talking about it. One of the things I appreciated were the female characters. They were tough, they were beautiful, and they were feminine, which is just so fucking refreshing nowadays. I'd give it a solid 3.5. And with respect.
One more thing I want to say about part 2 is you talked about how you like the Miho character. She's back in the Marv story in the sequel. They did have to they had to recast her because the original actress was pregnant at the time. So Devon Aoki isn't back. They replaced her with Jamie Chung. She came from the real world. Don't take that personal because I wouldn't know her anyway. Yeah, she has a career. If you've watched Gotham, she was Vicky Vale's sister, the one that had a little bit of a fling with Gordon. She's Asian.
I remember. Okay.
The reporter.
She plays Miho.
Oh yeah, she was cool. I liked Gotham.
Yeah, and she's a good Mio too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder. I think it would be cool if they did I don't know if it would work. Like we're talking about the Dwight stuff. If they did just a whole movie just with Dwight, focused on his character, but kept it in the noir, the black, kept it all in the style of the.
Well, his story in the sequel is quite long. And Josh Brolin, he's no Clive Owen, but he gives a really good Josh Brolin performance. He's really good in it. It's different, and he plays a really fucking badass Dwight too.
Yeah, we just covered Josh Brolin last week with No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, he's come a long way since the Goonies. You got to give him that.
And Mimic. Guillermo del Toro's
I still got to see that.
It's a good movie. All right, I think that's about all we have to cover for this show. Eric, do you want to plug anything?
The only thing I'll plug is, Mike, me and Alex were coming back with our podcast, Two Bearded Losers. And we are so happy. There was a list. We had almost 70 episodes of our initial run. Mike, you've been in the chat for a lot of them, and it's just like this. It's friends bullshitting about a movie, and we took a break, and then a lot of stuff happened. Alex had a tragedy, and we thought all of our episodes were lost. But light shines on a dog's ass every once in a while. He found out before he moved, because he moved and he had a house fire and lost everything. His mom told him that, hey, you left a little shoebox in the house before he moved to South Carolina, and he got that, and he found out that he had the flash drive of all of our episodes. Right. So everything that we thought was lost, he has now uploaded audio only on its own podcast, YouTube channel, Two Bearded Losers. You can just type that in, and it'll take you to the YouTube channel. Right. And all the audio is there, all 69 episodes, and he has uploaded everything from onto Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Nice. So our audio is back. We're happy, and we'll be back. He doesn't want me to reveal everything yet until it's official, but within, we'll say 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be back to live streaming Saturday nights, God willing, 9 p.m. Central Time on my YouTube channel. Hey, Internet Eric here. And Mike, you've seen us. It's just two guys bullshitting. We go off on tangents too. Sometimes we talk about the movie for 20 fucking minutes, and then the rest is like 40 minutes of just bullshit. But we're happy to be back. It's been a long time coming. And
I really like stream of consciousness type streams, conversations. I wouldn't want to. I think it's great. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, when I found out that he found that flash drive, like he recorded my reaction live.
Yeah, man, you look like you were going to tear up.
I'm not going to lie, because I know we're going long. I'll just say this: the reason why I was so happy was I had everything downloaded on my iTunes on my computer. Computer died, took a shit, and then since then, when I had to redo my iTunes account, Two Bearded Losers was gone. And me being dumb, I had everything on my iPad or on my iPod, and I plugged it in, and everything I had downloaded erased. So Two Bearded Losers was gone. I couldn't listen to it. So the fact that he was able to find this flash drive, I now have all my episodes back. So
yeah, back them up on Google Drive or something. Put them up in the cloud.
That's what he said. He says he's learned you cannot predict what tomorrow will bring. Yeah. He says everything is also up on the cloud. And moving forward, we're going to live stream on my channel. That's going to stay on my channel, but he's still going to upload everything onto that second YouTube channel just to save everything. You know what I mean? So
it's always nice to hear a story of a kind providence shining on people. So I'm
happy for him. You know, it was a lot of tragedy the way we ended, and then everything that happened. Mike, you saw my reaction. I was legitimately happy when this happened.
They say it's never the end of anything. It's just the beginning of something. So there we go. All right. Ryan, anything going on right now?
No.
All right, fair enough. No.
The only thing I'm going to be unplugging is the computer charger, but I'm not plugging anything.
All right. Okay, that brings us to the end of the show. My thanks to the Ryan Daly and Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here.
Of course.
We will be back tomorrow in our final Friday show because we'll be moving back starting next week to our regular Wednesday, Thursdays. And, things are, the earth is a bit more back on its axis. But we'll be back tomorrow night. Walk the Cinema is doing a double header with me. We'll be here tomorrow night with them and Ben from Cadaver Club.
Ben's good. I like Ben.
Yeah. As we look at a Netflix original film based on an Adam Neville novel that I covered at the very beginning. It's another redo or redux or whatever called. We're going to be looking at The Ritual. And The Ritual is just a fucking fantastic horror film. And because it's fantastic, of course, nobody's talking about it because of all the reasons that I've been talking about for 135 episodes now. But we're talking about it, and I can't wait to get into it again. We'll be here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Okay. My thanks to Ryan and Eric. Stick around after the outro. I want to talk to you guys for like 60 seconds. Thanks to everybody in the chat. And have a great night, everybody.
Cheers.
All right.